Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Walsh. I want to begin by just getting your thoughts on why you are so opposed to the rise in air passenger duty.
Well, it's not just the rise in air passenger duty that we're opposed to. We're opposed to air passenger duty in totality. And I think the fact that you can get the CEOs of the four major airlines together and united on an issue like this demonstrates that this is a serious issue. So we believe that it is having a damaging effect on the UK economy, and that is far outweighing any revenue take that the Chancellor is getting from this tax.
How concerned are you about its impact on regional airports and routes, though?
I'm concerned about its impact on the UK economy, and what tends to happen is that regional airports suffer more in an economic environment like that, and that's what the figures say. Scotland was the hardest hit part of the UK, followed by Northern Ireland, the North East, Wales and the South East. The South East actually suffered less, but did suffer through the reduction of passengers. But the impact on the regions tends to be much greater than the impact around London and the South East.
Do you think it could be so damaging to an extent that the really small regional airports would, ultimately have to closing perhaps? I mean, how bad do you
I think the CAA has already warned that it is having a serious impact on smaller airports and regional airports. In a report that they issued earlier this year, they highlighted the fact that the combination of the economic downturn, high oil prices and taxation, and they were very specific, taxation is having an impact and is causing serious financial difficulty for a number of airports.
I'm just wondering, air passenger duty, it's been around for more than a decade. Why do you think the government is going to reduce it now, especially when they need to raise tax revenue?
Well, it was first introduced back in the 90s as a green tax. It was at a very low level. However, the big change took place in 2007 when the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, Gordon Brown, doubled the rates of APD. And I think he took a view at the time that this would generate additional tax take but not have an impact on the UK economy because general economic conditions were pretty robust at the time. Since then, traffic in the UK has been declining. The number of flights in the UK has been declining. So it's clear that the tax has had a direct impact on the efficiency of the UK, on the cost competitiveness of the UK, and that's the message that we want to make sure the Chancellor hears. It's gone beyond raising some tax pounds. It is now having an impact that far outweighs the revenue that the Exchequer is gaining.
If the government doesn't move on this, doesn't change its stance, how is it going to play on AIG's strategy going forwards?
Well, we've already made clear that in creating IAG, we've created a platform that allows us to grow outside of the UK. I think that's a terrible thing to have to say, but we're in an industry that's growing. We're in an economy that is still growing globally. There are different regional effects. So we will just look, as will the other airlines, for opportunities to grow in other parts of the world where they value the contribution, the economic contribution of aviation, where they're dependent on aviation to drive their economy, drive tourism, drive jobs. And the message for the UK is this is critical for our future as well.
In January, as you know, it's been discussed here at the press conference, the EU will implement, an ETS.
Yes.
The emissions trading scheme. What are your views on it? Do you think it should replace APD or, supplement it?
Well, I've been a long-time proponent of emissions trading as one of the methods that can be used to improve the environmental performance of airlines. Not the only one, but I've been a long-time proponent. Indeed, British Airways was the first airline to actively participate in an emissions trading scheme since 2002 as a voluntary participant in the UK's emissions trading scheme. But I need to remind you again, APD is not an environmental tax. It may have been introduced as one back in the 90s. It is not an environmental tax, and the Exchequer has made that clear. This is a revenue-raising tax that is having more damage on the economy than the money it's raising.
Just wondering, generally, what are your thoughts on the biggest headwinds, I guess, for the airline industry? Oil's back up above $100 a barrel, the prospects for the UK economy and within Europe. aren't looking brilliant.
Well, it's the general economic environment, and that's why this tax needs to be scrapped, because it's even more damaging on the UK economy than any other European economy or global economy. Everybody else has got rid of it because they see the negative effects of it. We're calling on the Chancellor to do the same.
One other area I want to broach, because it is remarkable that I guess you're here together when you're locked in a takeover battle for BMI.
No, that's not an issue, and we're not here to talk about this. The only issue we're talking about today is APT.